Recently, I was catching up with my friend Rick Beato by watching one of his live streams, and a phrase leapt out at me that I just knew I would have to talk about. Boomer nostalgia. Isn't that beautiful? Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? But what does it mean? Boomer refers to the post-World War II generation known as baby boomers, aka anyone in their early 60s to mid-70s, and nostalgia is a wistful or excessively sentimental yearning for the past, typically one with happy associations. This is a rich topic that I just can't get enough of. I previously dived into it with my video, Why New Music Sucks, and thought it might be time to revisit the debate and see if we're any closer to a definitive answer. So stick around to the end to find out. But before we continue, it'd be a huge help if you could hit that subscribe button. We're nearly at 700,000 subscribers. Oh, and also pre-order the physical signed copy of my upcoming debut studio album, Super Sexy Heartbreak. The first single is out everywhere now. Okay, recap time. The crux of the ongoing argument is that the older generation, boomers, think that things, musically at least, were undeniably better back in their day. They had the greatest bands and solo artists, the best songs with real hooks and melodies and proper choruses, unlike today. They had this special connection to records that scarcity brought, and they came of age in the undeniable golden eras of rock, hip-hop, disco, and metal. And people used to really know how to play their instruments, didn't they? And producers knew how to produce. Artists like Carole King, David Bowie, Marvin Gaye, and James Taylor all rode high in the charts and sold millions of records, and the record label's gatekeeper status meant that the inferior music was sifted out at the demo tape stage. Artists were given time to develop and supported by their labels. Gig tickets were cheaper. Things were just better all round. And today's music is a bunch of auto-tuned derivative nonsense that's solely designed as the soundtracks for TikTok dances. The younger generations, millennials and Gen Z, or Gen Z, aka the Zoomers, fight back against this rather tired old argument. Okay, boomer, knowing that throughout history, each new generation tends to rebel against that which came before it and criticize that which comes after it. We can say that these critiques come from the same types of people who'd say that the Beatles' trousers were just too damn tight, or that the Rolling Stones should all get haircuts, or that punk is just terrible because it's made up of 3 chords. Zoomers can say that music is much more democratic now, that we all have unparalleled access to the greatest libraries of music ever made, and that access means artists from our generations can travel in all sorts of new and innovative post-genre directions. We can argue that the charts are irrelevant and they're the last gasp of a dying industry, that they don't truly reflect the diversity or quality of what's on offer or what's truly popular, and that harking back to the good old days when you could only afford 1 or 2 records a week or month or year, depending on your circumstances, is like wishing you could bring back the good old days of foraging for nuts and berries for sustenance. It's just not going to happen. There's also something to be said about the fact that when people from my generation listen to these classic boomer records, we can't really listen to them objectively. We listen through the lens of historical critical praise. If something has been retrospectively labelled a masterpiece, it becomes more difficult to form your own genuine opinion on it. Let's not forget that many classic records didn't receive glowing reviews at the time. Opinions are formed and reformed over many years, and some artists put out work way ahead of its time that's only recognised decades later. The thing about both sides of this argument is that we're both right and we're both wrong. I try and take a positive view of 21st century music, and if I'm really honest with myself, there are plenty of issues that I have with the system. The sheer amount of material released each day means that I often move on quickly before I form that special attachment to an album that I used to feel. Algorithms have delivered me up some real treats that I would never have found otherwise. But there is also a lot of conscious, time-consuming searching needed to discover new artists, particularly independent ones, because of the hand-in-hand relationships that streaming giants and major labels have in pushing out their big releases. In the era of the attention economy, getting a Spotify notification that Taylor Swift's got a new album out or a new old album can be enough to derail me from the task at hand, even if I have absolutely no interest in the record. The ongoing playlistification of music means artists are encouraged to fit their creativity into a certain popular box, like music for the gym or summer sounds, in hope of being noticed. I rarely, if ever, look at the charts and think that yes, it must be pretty damn nice to live back in the day when someone like Prince or Tracy Chapman were what was considered genuinely popular. On some days, yes, I admit it, I am wistful for the good old days I never knew. Because I have times when I feel rather overwhelmed by my to-do list and wonder if I'll ever be the caliber of musician I want to be, because my practice time and creativity have been drained by the necessary admin of just making a living. I also wonder whether the golden artists from the 70s and 80s would have produced a fraction of the good work that they did if they had to tour as relentlessly as today's artists to make up for the lack of income from record sales, or had to wear the other hats like video editor, content creator, marketing guru that have become an essential part of today's industry. Would Joni Mitchell have written such good lyrics if she'd been on Twitter half the day? Don Henley may never have written Boys of Summer if he'd been dealing with his Shopify inquiries or navigating the vinyl shortage. Maybe Phil Collins would have been a natural on TikTok. Could Bob Dylan come up with a viral dance for Tangled Up in Blue? We may never know. But right or wrong, there is no going back. We are where we are, and like a true double-edged sword, these same new technologies have allowed me to build a direct connection with my audience, fund recording my debut album, and hopefully hit the road next year too. I feel like I'm working this new music business out as I go. We all are, and I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with looking back at the past, learning from it, studying the greats, learning from their successes and their failures, and most of all, enjoying their songs. There's just bloody great music everywhere. But don't write today's music off either. There's much to be hopeful about. Look at the metal renaissance going on right now. Bands like Sleep Token can sell out Wembley Arena in 10 minutes with one social media post. One day in the future, metal historians will be writing books about today's artists. There's other similar moments going on in electronic music and rap as innovative upstarts kick back against the mainstream. But we probably won't be able to make a fair assessment of the era and its defining artists for a little while yet. So here's my suggestion. I think we should all agree to take a breath, take a moment, and revisit this subject in a decade. Agreed? Okay. Thank you so much for watching. As you may have gathered, I am totally independent, and by making YouTube videos and developing a new type of music business, I have managed to self-fund my debut album. However, it would mean a lot to me if you could pre-order the physical signed copy of Super Sexy Heartbreak. Every single copy actually makes a huge, huge difference. There is a link in the description. But as always, I'll be seeing you here very, very soon.